Hey there, it's Simone. I'm here with another swatching video. This time I'm swatching 7 inks from Jana. She gave me 6 full-size samples and then this one, which says Birmingham Pen Co. Mystery Ink. So I hope she still remembers what this ink is. I will guess my best. But she brought those to the San Francisco Pen Show in 2023 when I met her for the first time. And she's a very lovely human being, so I was glad to meet her. The inks that she gave me were, look at those labels, they look super professional. Pennsylvania Fieldstone, Pennsylvania Slate, Ceramic Kiln, Abandoned Shipyard, Magnolia Mirage, and Aqueduct, and Mystery. I am using 52 GSM old Tomoe River paper. It seems like you can't really see it right here, all of my Rolodex cards are muddy, dirty. They have some kind of stuff on them. I make them myself from mixed media paper from Artist Loft. And then I use cotton swabs and my Kakimori dip nib to swatch the inks. And I would like to continue talking about the 17 ink questions that I talked about in my last video. I think I got to question number 7 and answered that on the last video. And so I am going to continue with number 8. The 17 ink questions came from, I found them through the Pen Boutique, but they were originally posed by, let me scroll up here, by Lisa over on oliveoctopus.ink. So I answered the first 7 in my ink swatching video with Roxy, where I swatched quite a few shimmery troublemaker inks. And now I'm swatching Jana's inks and starting at question number 8, which is called, do you use ink samples? If so, is your goal to find an ink to buy a bottle or just to get a smaller amount of ink to use? So originally, when I started using ink samples, I did that in order to find my favorite olive green, for instance, or my favorite dark blue. And now, my plan, which isn't really working, but still kind of, is not really buying any ink bottles anymore. Not really to buy any more ink bottles, even though I have purchased, it is the middle of March when I filmed this, and up to now I have purchased 6 bottles of ink this year so far. That's quite a few. I'm just going to write BPC and Pennsylvania Fieldstone. I originally thought this ink was too light, but I think I want to see this in a broad nib. I think it's not too light. Or maybe I'm just telling myself a story here. What do you think? Is this ink too light to use in a fountain pen? I'd love to know your thoughts. I think I'm going to just use one more. And it seems wet enough to flow well, which is always important for these lighter inks. Maybe I'll just write the name because it's all the same brand. would have worked really well for this one because I'm running out of space. Now I'm trying not to have too restrictive rules. If I like an ink and I want a bottle and it's not like $50 for the bottle, why not get it? But the biggest reason why I'm currently not really buying ink bottles, or I'm not out to, if I like an ink sample, then I immediately run out and buy the ink bottle, is because I have so many samples that I would like to use that it's really unrealistic for me to use an ink more than once over the span of a year even. I would actually lean out this far and say that it might even not be more than like once every 2 years. That sounds really scary, right? Like, if I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, and then thinking about using inks more than once in 2 years, that sounds so odd. But realistically, I am inking up about 8 pens every month. Often I move forward 2 to 4 of those pens. So I'm only using 4 new ink samples that I haven't used. And I currently have around 140 ink samples in I have 240 ink samples. So that means if I divide that by 4, then I have the number of months. So I think 144 is 12 times 12. So that's not true. What? 12 squared. 12 times 12 months. So 12 years? Am I like am I doing the math correctly? No, I need to divide it by 4. That's why. Okay, 12 times 3. So there we go. 12 times 3. So I have 3 years worth of ink samples. If I'm continuing in that way that I'm doing it right now, then I have 3 years where I'm using a different ink sample without repeating a color. So there you are. That's why I'm not actively buying any ink bottles. And I know I just said I purchased 6 but I hadn't really thought about that. So maybe I need to completely stop buying bottles. So what would I do if nobody gave me samples? Because for instance, Birmingham Ink, they don't sell any samples. So I would have to purchase bottles if I wanted to. And also, if I want to share inks with friends, then having a bottle is good, because that's how I would be able to share inks, unless I'm moving along these. I hope that makes sense. Pennsylvania. And I think I need to talk about the next question then. Slate. So the next question is question number 9. Is there a popular ink that's just not for you? What underhyped ink would you like to see more people try? Yes. I think the popular ink that's just not for me is actually a brand, and that ink brand, completely forgot this. And that ink brand is Ferris Wheel Press. I just don't seem to get along with the inks that they make. Many of the inks that I have tried from them are too light. there's lots of shimmer inks that they make. And I think they're super expensive. And so I don't really purchase their inks. And I have had, I just had a really weird experience with a Ferris wheel press ink, and so I decided to simply remove all Ferris wheel press inks from my sample stash so that I just don't use those anymore. Pennsylvania Slate. And then there's also, what was the question? Is there a popular ink that's just not for you? I think I mentioned that in the question that was posed about inks that you like, that you're not using. This could be the same answer is the light purple chromo shading inks. I like those, but they're just not for me in the sense of that I just can't use them and enjoy them. And then what underhyped ink would you like to see more people try? Waterman, Inspired Blue, Waterman, Tender Purple. Yeah. I actually also like the, what am I doing? I shouldn't talk. The very people don't really talk about Lamy inks, but that's why I have 6 bottles, purchased 6 bottles. I purchased the, I do have one ink from them, regular ink color tourmaline, which performs really well. And now I have purchased the limited edition Velvet Blackberry, as well as Pink Cliff, and I think those inks perform quite well. And so maybe those are also quite underhyped. I would like to see more people use those. And then another very underhyped ink. Well, is it underhyped? I think if you could only use one ink brand and you would use Diamine, that brand. Leftover ink. What do you do with any unused ink when you clean a pen? I dump it. I have so much ink and so many ink samples that 1 milliliter that is probably, even if it is 1 milliliter, that is probably in that pen is not going to break my bank, and it's also not going to reduce my ink sample so that it's not usable anymore, or even if it was, then it's just done. I'm not preserving ink by any means possible. That's just not really necessary for me. That sounds weird. I don't feel precious about ink. And yeah, that is it. Any unused ink that is in a sample bottle, like if I use this and I ink it up and there is a milliliter left or 1.5, I will pass those inks along. So maybe the next color that I'm swatching will not be as weird as this one, because I totally did it all the way backwards. I would not have imagined I would like this color, but I actually do. That is very weird to me. Question number 11. What is the most unique ink you've used or seen? I have no idea. Well, actually, I don't even know what it's called. And it's not an ink. I actually purchased a bottle, so it's not an ink that I use, but it's an ink that I use to make presents for my kids. What are they called? White elephant gifts. I would even make this as a white elephant gift for an adult. Like if I'm asked to bring a white elephant gift, that's what I do. There is this Noodler's ink that is, not sure what it's called. Maybe I'll find the name for it. It's clear and it reacts to UV lighting. So I gift a platinum preppy that is converted to an eyedropper pen. I fill that pen with that invisible ink, and I gift a flashlight, a UV flashlight with it. And I think that is the most unique ink that I have seen. So, next color. I'm too slow here. I hope you don't mind. Next color is Abandoned Shipyard, but if I am going to be efficient with this ink application on my swatching things, then maybe this will go faster. So the question is, for some reason I thought this was green, but maybe it is, and will dry green. How do you catalog, swatch, track, and store your inks? Catalog. I catalog my inks in my Rolodex by manufacturer. I just switched it up. I had it organized by color, but for some reason, first of all, it wasn't in the exact color order, and that drove me bonkers. And most of the time when I'm comparing inks, I think of a specific color that might look similar, and then I have to go through the stack of 15 teal inks that I have swatched, but to find that specific one that I'm looking for. But if I sort them by manufacturer and color name, then I can go and look for it this way. I swatch them on the mixed media paper from Artist Loft that I cut to Rolodex cards, and then I also swatch them just as I get them in this journal. I don't really track my inks. I write down when I ink a pen, what color it is inked, and I have a logbook for my pens where I write down all on the same sheet of paper all the inks that I have had in that specific pen. But I do not do that for inks. I have done that, but it was just too much, and it's not something that I am tracking. Abandoned Shipyard. Store. I used to store my samples in these amazing vial holders. They're boxes, 36 fit in one, and I had them sorted by color. But when I started my project Ink Down this year, I put all of my samples in. I just threw them in a box that is big enough to hold them all, because I am randomly picking inks as I go through the year. And because I had noticed that I would always skip some colors, and So before I threw them in that abandoned shipyard, before I threw them in the box, I went through and took all the inks out that didn't speak to me. It wasn't that many. And now I am pulling 4 or 5, depending on how many inks I ink each month, out of my box, and either I'm using it or I'm passing it along. So there's no skipping because it just doesn't float my boat today. All of my ink bottles I keep in a drawer in my desk, and that is getting pretty full. And so I am actually also at capacity space-wise. I am considering everything that is the size or the milliliter amount, which is 12 of a Diamine ink vent bottle, a sample. Everything 12 milliliter and smaller is a sample. Everything bigger than 12 milliliters I consider a bottle. Next ink I'm swatching is Magnolia Mirage. So we are getting to ink question number 13. What is your favorite ink color, color family? I think I have more than just one because I am a sucker for, well, ink color, color family. My favorite ink colors are saturated inks, and that's not a ink color or color family. But if I would go, I really love teals and turquoises. And if you haven't watched my inspired blue video and saw how many bottles of ink I have in that color family, and I actually purchased inspired blue even though I did not need it, I just wanted to have it. This is nice. It's kind of, it looks dirty-ish. Let's move this up. Then I really love magenta and purple colors. And I also really love olives and greens, like jewel tones. It's not a color family, but that's what I'm really vibing with all the time. If I was only allowed to use jewel tones, I wouldn't be mad one second. Next one. What ink related tool or accessory can you not live without? I think the one that I love the most is the Kakimori dip nib, but I also, here's my plug for an ink miser to fill pens that cannot be filled with syringes. And if your ink bottle, or even I didn't think it would make such a difference, but if you dip your pen in here and into one of those sample vials and you can't really fill your pen, try an ink miser, because it's wow, I'm almost spilling this ink. Not triangular, it's cone shaped. Your pen will, so you will be able to fill your pen so easily, and you will wonder why you have never used this before. And if you are getting an ink miser, get the clear one. Just saying, if you're like me, you are going to prefer the clear one. Alrighty. Question number 15. Have you ever mixed inks or used shimmer additives? I have never done that myself, and as much as I love filling pens, experimenting with inks and all that, I do not have any inclination of mixing inks, unless it happens accidentally, maybe because my pen isn't all the way clean. But I don't really want to do that. I was intrigued by the wearing ghoul. Oh my gosh, look at the, it looks like there are some highlighter color undertones here. Wow. And there's also some blue. Maybe that's why it looks dirty. So yeah, the shimmer additives from Wearingeul, last year in January, so January 2023, I was at a meetup with friends, and someone had just gotten those glitter potions, and she made some potion mixes, and I took home one of them and I tried it and I really loved it, and then I thought I needed that. But I am not really that into shimmer inks anymore. I use them if I have them, but I'm not feeling like I want to make more shimmer inks. I need to have more shimmer inks in my life. I need to make a really great ink into a shimmer ink. So I have even strayed away from that, but I don't really want to mix inks. That's like, I couldn't care less. If this ink color doesn't exist, then I just use a different one. And maybe that's also because I don't really need to have my ink color match my pens perfectly. I don't even, I don't strive to match inks and pens. And so I never have the need to have a perfect color, because the color that I like, I use. I don't have to make it different. And the color that doesn't appeal to me, I just don't. All right, what is your favorite ink delivery system? Cartridges, type of filling system for bottled ink, etc. I don't really use cartridges at all, just because I have so many samples and bottles that I want to use that I don't really feel the urge to use cartridges. The only reason why I would use a cartridge is to flush it and then use it like a converter. My favorite bottle filling system, as what I mean by that is, if I have bottled ink or samples, what filling mechanism do I prefer? There is, for instance, piston filler, vacuum filler, cartridge converter, eyedropper. Did I miss anything? I said vacuum. Yeah. My favorite filling system is converter or cartridges if they're rinsed, because I just really like using so many different inks that I don't really go through a full fill of a piston filler pen. They're also harder to clean. Vacuum fillers are actually even worse to clean. So the only vacuum filler pen that I have at the moment is the Pilot Custom 823. And if the Custom 743 had been released in the United States before I got the Custom 823, I probably would never have gotten the 823. I love that pen. It's one of my favorites at the moment, still for a long time. And so I'm not ever going to give that away. But just if that had been available at the time, I probably would not own one at the moment right now. What's this? Aqueduct. Piston filler pens are okay, but they're still not my favorites because they're harder to clean. I never use a full fill in a piston filler. I mean, I'm just not filling it all the way, but it's still, it's just the convenience of cleaning a cartridge converter pen is just so much easier than cleaning a piston filler. And then the last, what else? The only reason why I purchase piston filling pens if they don't exist as something else. Like, I know that, for instance, the Esterbrook SD, some of them now are button filler pens. I would never choose that as a, what have I done? I'm not even finished. I would never choose that as an option if I had the choice. Exciting. What inks are you excited about right now? The inks that I'm using at the moment. Oh, that is such a cheapo answer. I really, yeah, basically, I'm very excited about all the saturated, as I said before, all the saturated jewel tone inks. Every time I pick one from my project ink down, it turns out that this one is the one that I'm reaching for most. Yeah, saturated, bright and loud colors are the ones that I'm most excited about. And it doesn't really matter what ink brand, what color it is. Yeah, that is not a thing that makes a difference to me, who the manufacturer is. However, I have to say that I currently have two inks in pens. The two of the inks that I purchased when I first started out with buying colored ink bottles, Diamine Ancient Copper and Sailor Manu Akibi, and using those and realizing that I still really love those inks is awesome. And so I'm very excited to be using those in the month of March and possibly the beginning of April. Haven't really written much with my inked pens this month so far, which is a bummer, but it's also okay. You know, we go through seasons, and if the season is swatching inks and not using my pens with inks, but still being adjacent to the hobby, then that's fine. Then I'll just keep my pens inked for a little while longer. Nobody makes arbitrary rules better than me, and nobody breaks them. Oh, mystery ink. Well, it's not Pennsylvania Fieldstone, that's for sure. I have no idea. What would you guess this ink is? I hope I answered that question okay. So I'm very excited about the Ancient Copper and Manu Akibi, that I still really love those, which would actually be kind of like a pointer or a push into the direction of maybe I'll just have the ink bottles that I have. I was just going to say 8 or 9 ink bottles, but that's not the amount of ink bottles I have. I don't have tons, but I do have maybe 35 ink bottles. So it's not nothing. And just rotating through those in different pens, maybe that's where I'm headed with this experiment at the moment. Who knows? So if you know what this ink is, please leave a comment down below. I will reach out to Jana and tell her that I finally swatched the inks that she shared with me at the San Francisco Pen Show, and ask if she remembers what the ink is that she gave me as a mystery ink. I don't know. I think she swatched the ink. So if I go back to her video, maybe I can find out what ink that is, what ink color this is. So if I had to pick inks that I would put into pens, then as usual, I am drawn to the same colors. So I would pick Pennsylvania Fieldstone, Pennsylvania Slate, and Aqueduct. These are, for me, those are no-brainers. Not sure about Abandoned Shipyard because it's a muddy color and I like the swatch. But I'm really, as I said, I like saturated inks, and this looks very desaturated here on this swatch. So if I was going to use a darker tone, maybe a brown, I would probably prefer a really dark saturated brown. The ceramic kiln is lovely, but I think I have colors that are similar. And again, more saturated. I'm just thinking of maybe even diamond ancient copper, actually. It's in a similar color range, but it's more saturated. And then Magnolia Mirage. I have not just, that sounds like I did it yesterday. I think in July. Oh, look at this. I already swatched Abandoned Shipyard. Rose quartz is very similar to this color. And I think I swatched an ink from my friend Amy. Oh, it's totally different. Look at this. I was thinking of Kobe in collaboration with Lamy, Light Rose. It's closer to Pelican Edelstein Rose Quartz than it is to the Light Rose. Wow, I did not expect this. So I used this in July of 2023 in my Benu. Would I use this? Yeah, but I also would use this, and I don't think I need to use both. This might even be more. I'm thinking about do I want to give this away, or do I want to keep this and maybe take this one out? So I am going to, let's talk about this. So, oh, this needs a lid. I would pass this mystery ink along, but what I've been doing in the past months or so is every time that I am swatching inks, I'm going through and I'm only adding those to my ink stash that I really want to use in a pen. And that would be Aqueduct. This one is a maybe. Pennsylvania Fieldstone and Pennsylvania Slate. So I'm passing along Abandoned Shipyard, Ceramic Kiln, and then I'm filling this up to 5 samples. And then next week I will pick a winner from my Google Forms and contact you and send those out to you. So I do have a stash of inks that I want to pass along. And so I'm just going to add 3 more. Wow, I can't count to 5. And we'll fill those up to 5 and then send those out to one of you. If you want to be entered into this giveaway, then please fill out the Google form that is linked down below. If you have already filled it out this year, there is no need to fill it out again. If you're entered once, you are entered for the whole year of 2024, and I'll just pick one random person from that list. Okay, I hope you enjoyed hearing my replies to these 17 pen questions. I will link the previous video as well, so you can hear my answers to them all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.